The town of Orofino, Idaho, was the kind of place where the silence usually felt like a blanket. To Elias, it felt like a reprieve. He wore a heavy canvas jacket to hide the way his skin occasionally shimmered with an oily, iridescent light, settling into the quiet rhythm of a drifter. He walked into a small corner grocery, the bell above the door ringing with a sharp, metallic clarity that vibrated in his teeth. He just wanted water, something simple to ground him. The confrontation. He was halfway to the coolers when the shouting started. A man in a frayed ski mask stood at the counter, waving a snub-nosed revolver at the elderly clerk. "Empty the drawer." "Everything!" the robber screamed. His hand was shaking, a sign of desperation that, to Elias, felt like a loud, discordant hum in the air. Elias didn't think. He just felt the irritation rise. It was a cold, sharp spike in his chest. The injustice of it felt like a physical weight. "Stop," Elias said. His voice didn't sound like his own. It carried a resonance, like two stones grinding together. "Put the gun down and leave." The robber spun around, eyes wide and panicked behind the mask. "Back off, freak! I'll kill you." "You don't want to do this," Elias warned, his molecular density already beginning to liquefy. The robber pulled the trigger. Crack. The bullet didn't thud into flesh. It didn't even slow down. As it reached Elias's chest, he instinctively subtracted the density of his torso. The lead slug passed through a patch of translucent, gray mist where his heart should have been, whistling through him and embedding itself harmlessly into a loaf of bread on the shelf behind him. The molecular shift. The robber froze, his jaw dropping. He fired again and again. 3 more rounds passed through Elias like light through a window. "My turn," Elias whispered. He realized then that his influence didn't stop at his own skin. The air between them began to warp, the atoms of the oxygen and nitrogen thickening into a viscous, visible soup. Elias reached out a hand, and instead of pulling atoms into himself, he projected a subtractive field toward the gunman. It happened in a heartbeat. The robber's arm began to fray at the edges, turning into a fine black dust. He tried to scream, but the atoms of his vocal cords were already being unmade. Elias wasn't just killing him, he was deleting the sequence. He reorganized the man's molecular structure into a simple, inert gas. Within seconds, the robber was gone. No blood, no body, just a faint scent of ozone and a pile of empty clothes that collapsed onto the linoleum floor. Even the gun had been reduced to a handful of iron filings that scattered in the draft. The escape. The shopkeeper stared over the counter, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. He reached for the landline with a trembling hand, his eyes locked on the spot where a human being had stood moments before. I'm sorry," Elias muttered, the weight of what he'd done hitting him. He didn't wait for a response. He turned and bolted out the door, his body flickering between solid and shadow. Behind him he heard the frantic clicks of the rotary phone and the shopkeeper's panicked voice hitting the airwaves. "911? You need